cannot fully articulate the extent to which I appreciate a solidly obsessed character, the type of character that likely needs to have a restraining order taken out against them. And honestly, I know you like it too, because who of us does not love Joe Goldberg? Now, today's book was an absolute joy to read. Oh my gosh, the pleasure I got out of reading this book. It is Pizza Girl by Jean Kyoung Frazier. You know, it's just one of those classic 18-year-old pregnant pizza girls obsessing over a middle-aged mom with bags under her eyes and who owns no shirts without stains on them. That type of obsession, that kind of all-consuming fascination that I like to hear about. Hello, welcome. My name is Leah, and this is my channel, Dirty Little Literate, where I like to talk about books that are weird, disturbing, bizarre, disgusting. This one is weird. I wouldn't say it's too disturbing. There's certain components of it that are a little like, ooh, foo, foo, foo. And like, you probably should have a restraining order taken out against you, but I'm feeling so cozy reading about it all the while. Our main character, pregnant pizza girl Jane. We actually don't learn that her name is Jane until the very end of the book. She just mostly is called Pizza Girl. And she is not too excited about her pregnancy. What's interesting, she lives with her mom and her boyfriend, and her mom and her boyfriend love the shit out of each other. They get along so well. They're so cozy. It's kind of crazy. Jane almost seems like the odd man out. Her boyfriend is not what you would expect for someone just knocking up their teenage girlfriend. You know, he loves her. He's devoted to her. He's giving up the opportunity to go to a great college, to stay and take care of the baby, and he loves his baby mama. Oh my goodness. Not to mention Jane's mom. You know, often moms are not too pleased to hear that their teenage daughters have been impregnated, and her mom is just so enthused, so happy for her. You and your boyfriend can just live here and I'll help take care of the baby. Her mom and her boyfriend are so nice to her, and she fucking hates it. Everything they do is an ick to her. Her boyfriend honestly sounds amazing. He sounds like he's probably really hot. I don't know, he's like hot and smart and perfect. Basically, they met because her dad died within the last couple of years. He was a very severe alcoholic, and she and her boyfriend met in a grief group. His parents had both died in a car accident. So they met at the grief group, and she asked him basically if he wanted to bang it out right after the session. And that's not when she got pregnant. They did form a relationship, but they were obviously not intending on getting pregnant. They're only 18, but she got pretty lucky with her boyfriend and her mom, and she fucking hates it. She cannot stand them. Now she's working as a pizza girl, and the job is about as pleasurable as you would expect, but honestly she likes it because it means she gets to get away from her mom and her boyfriend. Just to read you the first sentence of this book. Her name was Jenny Hauser, and every Wednesday I put pickles on her pizza. Now, Jenny Hauser is a customer. Jenny Hauser calls up the pizza place one day, and she seems to have a larger-than-life personality and seems to have no qualms about sharing every detail of her life with the pizza girl. Now, she's asking if Jane can make her a pickle pizza, and they do not serve pickles on pizza, and I guess this is the 6th place that Jenny has called, and everyone has said no. And she's telling Jane, you know, my husband and I just moved here, and my son is just so unhappy. He doesn't like it here. He always used to get pickle pizza from our old pizza place, and I was just thinking that if he could have that here, it would be a little slice of home, and maybe he'd feel a little better. Can you just make me a pickle pizza? Jane's like, well, I don't really know how to help with that. But Jenny Hauser is getting all vulnerable, and she's like, I just feel like a failure so much lately. And I don't know what it is that makes Jane just lock in on Jenny, even just from this initial phone call, but there's something about her, you know? So Jane is like, damn it, I'm gonna go pick up pickles from the store and make this happen for her. When she goes to deliver the pizza, she's struck by Jenny's long ponytail. Jenny's probably about early 40s, and it's the longest ponytail she's ever seen on a woman her age. Her clothes are hella baggy. They're stained. She looks tired as fuck. It looks like she hasn't changed her outfit in a couple days. She just looks like she's having a rough go of it. And yet Jane is still just locking in that much further. And I think they're kind of vibing in the sense of, you know, they like each other's humor a little bit, okay? When Jenny first opens the door and sees Jane, she just says, Jesus Christ, your uniforms are truly terrible. Green and orange like Kermit the Frog fucked a pumpkin, to which Jane is like, the Hulk ate a bag of Doritos and took a shit. So they're kind of like, look at us on the same wavelength, look at us throw our banter back and forth. Jane peers inside the house and she sees like a half-eaten bag of Doritos on the floor with like a tub of cream cheese and a bunch of in-progress paintings of turtles that are truly hideous. I don't know why, but everything she sees just draws her in that much more, locks her in on Jenny Hauser that much more. Honestly, it does make you feel a little self-assured about your own quirks. Like, someone could fall in love with the shitty thing you ate and the shitty art you do and your shittiness, and they could just think that's so fucking hot to the point where you should get a restraining order out on them. I love that. I love that for us. Jenny knows that her paintings suck. She's just trying to paint a turtle for her son, goddammit. And she actually gives one of the ugly turtles to Jane, who is absolutely touched by this gesture. I think what also really tickles Jane is the fact that Jenny realizes Jane is pregnant, and at first she kind of does the stereotypical thing like, oh, shmee, oh. And then she realizes that Jane does not seem excited, and she acknowledges it, which is something most people wouldn't want to talk about, like, oh shit, you're not excited to be a mom, you shit person. I feel like that's generally the fear that you have if you acknowledge that, which, I mean, she's 18, why would she want to be pregnant? That does sound horrible. And Jenny's like, of course you're not excited, like, of course not. And so Jane feels seen. She's just feeling the vibe. She tries not to crash her car on the way home, just trying to not pee herself over her turtle photo and the fact that Jenny said, see ya, pizza girl. So it becomes a weekly thing. Every Wednesday, Jenny Hauser orders her pickle pizza and Jane makes it for her nice and special, and she revolves her whole week around these visits. She gets so excited. On Jane's second visit to Jenny's house, she is invited by Jenny to a support group for struggling moms. And apparently Jenny goes to this, which makes sense because she has her child who's essentially on a hunger strike, except if he gets his pickle pizza. And she tells Jane, oh my gosh, you have to come. And she's not like raving about it like it's amazing. It's almost like she needs someone to grit their teeth and bear it with her. So she is insisting. And obviously, as you can imagine, Jane is jumping at the opportunity. We find out how much Jane is actually struggling, and it's actually pretty bad. So I had mentioned that her father was an alcoholic, and I think Jane is worried that she might be going down that path as well. So when Jane's dad was alive, he would always go into his shed every night, and his wife and his daughter were not allowed inside, and they didn't know exactly what he was doing, but it was pretty clear that he's getting drunk, but we don't really know if there's anything else special happening back there. Now, after he died, Jane broke into his shed, and there's just a lot of alcohol and a TV. There's nothing special. It's just your stereotypical man cave. And there was a lot of alcohol left over because he always liked to be prepared. And we find out that Jane is drinking during her pregnancy, and she's actually drinking quite often. It seems as though she's drinking every single day, and she's hiding it from her mom and her boyfriend. So when her boyfriend is asleep in the middle of the night, she goes down to the shed. She usually has 2 or 3 beers, and she watches infomercials, and that is like her happy place. And she is justifying it to herself like, oh, well, just a couple beers won't do anything, which is crazy, but I get that she is not in a good place. I think she's really afraid of becoming like her dad. She was super resentful of her dad growing up. It sounds like when she was young, she got used to being like the DD for her dad when she was like, I don't know, 10. He would like pass out while he was driving, and she would take over, which, oh my gosh, is horrible. So she's had a lot of really traumatic experiences with her dad and wasn't that sad with him dying, but I think she just doesn't know what she wants to do with her life. She's feeling lost, she's feeling trapped, and I think she also feels that, you know, a lot of people kind of feel bad for her, like, oh no, like, you got pregnant and now you just have to work at a pizza place, give up on your dreams. But realistically, she doesn't have dreams. She's actually started working at the pizza place a couple weeks before she found out she was pregnant. And she's like, even if I weren't, I'd probably be doing exactly this, but I'm still not happy with this. I think she's just going through an existential crisis, to be honest. I feel bad for her. But she is, I guess, doing a good enough job keeping this from her boyfriend and her mom. We do find out that her and her boyfriend, his name is Billy, their sex life hasn't been as great. They're not as in tune with each other as they once were. She's not really feeling it. Like I said, I think he kind of gives her the ick now. And one day while they're hooking up, she decides to start thinking of Jenny Hauser. And all the while, she's telling herself that she's not even doing it in a sexual way. Technically, it's true in the sense that she is fantasizing about Jenny painting her turtles while her boyfriend is servicing her. So it's not that she's necessarily even fantasizing about a sexual act, but eventually that is her go-to, is thinking about Jenny when she is pleasuring herself, when her boyfriend is pleasuring her. And she does end up going to that mom group. So the highlights of her week are dropping Jenny's pizza off and going to this shitty mom group where all the moms are bitching, where it's not fun to be there. But she gets to take a little look at Jenny's ponytail, and we love that, this long-ass 40-year-old woman's ponytail. And we do find that Jane has liked women in the past as well. She talks about this one girl that she became obsessed with when she was in high school, who sat in front of her, and one day she asked Jane for a pen. So true love, clearly. And she would like count this girl's hairs, like, and name each individual strand of this girl's hairs. So it's not her first woman crush, but it's like her first mature woman crush. But it seems like she develops feelings for people after they ask her for a favor, like, can you give me a pencil, or can you give me pickle pizza? One day after the mommies group, Jane and Jenny actually go out to get food together, and they stay out pretty late, and Jane is ignoring the texts that she receives from her boyfriend and her mom. They're constantly blowing her up, trying to figure out where she is, and she just starts ignoring them and doesn't really explain herself when she gets home. She just really cannot be bothered with them. And one day, Jenny does not order pizza, so Jane's world is obviously crumbling all around her, and she's thinking like, oh, she must be dead in a ditch to not order her pickle pizza on a Wednesday. Are you kidding? Because I think she's just assuming, like, obviously she must be revolving her life around this pizza delivery the way I am. How could she not be? And she decides to drive to Jenny's house and just sit in her car and stare and watch the house and see if she can pick up on anything. She's so sure that Jenny's gonna be dead. And she sees her pull up, and Jenny is with her young son, and she looks frazzled, as she often does, and her son is freaking out and kind of causing a scene a little bit. She sees that Jenny's son is having a tantrum, and in her mind, she just needs to save the day. And so without thinking, she just sprints out of her car on over to them. And as she's doing this, she's realizing like, oh, okay, I'm definitely blowing my cover that I've just been sitting outside of her house watching them. And interestingly enough, it doesn't seem like Jenny is super fazed by this. She's too in her own frazzled element that she's not thinking too hard about it. And Jane asks her, what can I do? How can I help? And Jenny says, could you watch him? She's just gonna leave her little son, I think he's like 7 or 8. She's gonna leave him with the pizza girl who, yeah, they've like gone out once after a mommy meet, but like she doesn't really know her. And she's just gonna leave her son with this pizza girl who was just stalking her, and that's not a secret. Like, she was just there watching you, you know that, and she's just gonna dip out. And so our pizza girl is just gonna hang out with her son for a while. And we find out that her son is struggling because it seems like he's constantly moving. It seems like he's not getting enough attention from his mom, and he's always saying, like, please don't leave. And it sounds like he's home by himself a lot. So we end up finding out that she just went to the movies. She just, like, needed to be away from her son, and so that's why she needed to leave him with the pizza girl. We also learn that this is not the only time that Jane has watched Jenny from outside her house. Sometimes she does this in the middle of the night, and it seems like Jenny must have insomnia because she'll be randomly reorganizing her fridge like 5 times over in the middle of the night. And Jane has seen her do this, and I guess all the while she'll be like chewing at her like wrinkled shirt, Jenny will, while she's like reorganizing the fridge, and Jane has seen this. So when Jane is babysitting Jenny's son, she decides to do a little exploring, and she goes into Jenny's room, and she's got to check out the dirty laundry in like literally like in the hamper. She is like smelling the clothes, and she finds one of Jenny's shirts, and she finds the part where she's like, oh, I think this is the part where she would have been chewing on, and she starts like sucking it. She's sucking the dirty shirt like, oh my God, my mouth is touching where her mouth touched. When Jenny gets back, she asks Jane if Jane doesn't mind just watching her drink, and she's expressing her woes to Jane, and life is rough, and isn't she a shitty mom, and just tell her how much she's a shitty mom. The fact that Jenny is confiding in her makes Jane feel all fluttery inside, and she just has to kiss her. She just has to kiss this middle-aged married mom after babysitting her child so she could go avoid her child and watch a movie by herself. It's a few seconds before anything happens, but then allegedly she does feel Jenny press her lips back against her, but then the fluttering she feels is for real because her baby is kicking, which it doesn't seem like that happens very often. So she's convinced like, oh my gosh, the baby is definitely shipping me and Jenny. And so she grabs Jenny's hand and like puts it on her belly. And then I think it kind of transitions into a like, okay, gotta go, like, you gotta go, like, leave. Like, not in a mean way, but like she's able to kind of suggest to Jane that Jane ought to go. And after that, Jane is horrified because it seems like Jenny is not trying to really have their same vibe, you know? She's distancing herself a lot, and she's freaking out because meanwhile she was planning a whole future of her, Jenny, the baby, Jenny's kid, like, let's all just go run off and be married together. Please also note that her relationship with her boyfriend and her mom is continuing to deteriorate because when she was babysitting Jenny's son, she actually decided to smash her phone because they kept calling her because they had no idea where she is. They don't even know who Jenny is. And so yeah, she destroyed her phone so they cannot get into contact with her. Eventually, at one point, Jenny does order her pickled pizza, and Jane is exuberant. But when she goes over and Jenny opens the door, she sees that Jenny has lopped off the beloved long ponytail that set her apart from the other middle-aged ladies. And Jane is so sad about this. Like, what have you done? And Jenny's like thinking it's chill, like, oh, it's cute, right? And, no. Jenny, it's not. She doesn't say that, but it's implied. She also mentions, oh yeah, I figured since we're moving, like having short hair might make everything easier. Moving? Excuse me? Jane is not trying to hear that. You just moved here. Where are you moving now? Jane's like, what? And apparently Jenny's husband, who is kind of like, that's like a whole Voldemort situation, like he who shall not be named, like let's not even talk about your husband. He got a better job opportunity if they move a little while away, and so she would not be within a distance where it would be reasonable to be delivering her pickled pizzas. And so Jane is devastated, and she's like, you don't want to go though, right? And Jenny's just kind of like, well, adults have to do some things they don't always want to do sometimes. But she does not seem particularly distraught. And Jane's just like, you can't leave. And Jenny's like, okay, well, just, send me a picture of the baby when it's born. Like, here's the address. Send me a postcard. Like, she's very casual about it, very chill. And yes, on one hand, obviously, their relationship was never a relationship where this would be like some big dramatic goodbye, but it also feels like she is further trying to separate, just emotionally trying to be very nonchalant in order to kind of send the message that kiss ain't shit, okay? Something very unexpected happens when Jane goes home, and she's heartbroken, she's devastated, and what does she walk into but her room? And inside her room is Billy, her baby daddy, and he is holding a gun. And this is not what you think it is. It's not like he realizes that his baby mama's trying to cheat on him and he's gotta, get his revenge or whatever. Like, no, nothing like that. That's not what is going on here. What is going on here is apparently Billy has really severe anxiety, and Jane honestly didn't even realize this. But the type of anxiety where you think about every little thing that could ever go wrong to anyone ever. Like, he's worried about the polar bears because of global warming, which, yes, global warming is a valid thing to be worried about. But he's worried like, oh my gosh, popsicles are going to melt automatically, and then my child is never going to get to experience popsicles. And what is a childhood without popsicles? And like on and on and on. But it's like crippling for him, and he is having a hard time just existing with all of this anxiety. And one of the things that he gets anxiety about is, what if I can't protect my wife and child? And so one of his sketchy coworkers said to him, maybe you'd feel a little better if you had a gun to protect your wife and child. So he has this gun, but Billy is quite a pacifist. He's not a violent person by any means. And so realistically, at first, I guess he was kind of scared of the gun. He didn't even really like it. But apparently, eventually, he just liked the feeling of touching it. And just touching it was relieving his anxiety. So, like, every day, he just, goes home and be touching the gun. And so that's what she walked in on. All of this basically leads to a serious conversation between Jane and Billy about their relationship, and that it's not okay and they're not doing well. And Billy is trying everything in his power to make it okay. And Jane's like, but nah, it's just not. It's just not. So what do we think is going to happen now that we have Jenny, who's going to be moving away, and we have a gun in the picture? What do we think is going to happen? Oh gosh. So obviously, Jane gets shit-faced because she is heartbroken about Jenny, but then she realizes, you know what? Jenny just needs me to save her. She really just needs me to give her permission, like, listen, come away with me. Bring the child. We will have a life together. And so she drunk drives on over to Jenny's house, and she's literally thinking that they are going to run off into the sunset together. And she has the address because Jenny gave it to her to send her a postcard of the baby. So homegirl gets to the house and punches the glass in to open the door for herself. And she sure did bring the gun, not because she thinks she's going to need to do anything, but she doesn't know Jenny's husband. What if he's a violent man and can't handle that Jenny doesn't want to be with him anymore when they're running off into the sunset? So all the while, she's just getting more and more drunk. She's drinking on the job with this one, and she goes into Jenny's bedroom where she is asleep in the bed with her husband, and Jane notices that it looks like Jenny is kind of on the very edge of the bed, like, when someone hogs it and then the other person is kind of just like meh. And so she thinks, oh my gosh, this selfish motherfucker who's should be giving her the whole bed, he's probably an asshole. I fucking hate this guy. She gets the gun and she points it at his forehead. And her hands are all sweaty and slippery, and we're freaking out because we feel like we know what's about to happen. But then they start adjusting in their sleep, and then they start spooning, and it gets really cuddly and really cute. And all of a sudden she's like, well, Jenny, why didn't... Why didn't Jenny tell me that they're in love? Look at that. They're so in love. Oh my God. She was thinking that the husband was making her move. And she's like, no. Oh my God, she's moving for him because she's in love with him. Oh, Jenny, why didn't you tell me that? And so she lowers the gun. Crazy. She lowers the gun. Oh my gosh, I didn't expect that part. And then she decides to walk out of the room, and then she goes to sit on the couch because she's fucking schmammered, and she passes out on the couch, drunk, hanging out with the gun. At one point, Jane wakes up, and Jenny is yelling at her, but she's so drunk that she doesn't even process the words that are being said. At a later point, she wakes up again, but this time she is in the hospital, and her blood alcohol level is very, very high, and her mom and Billy are both there and now realize that she has been drinking while pregnant. Apparently, Jenny didn't call the police. She almost did, but then she convinced her husband, like, no, let's just get her to the hospital instead, so they're not pressing charges, which is quite honorable of them. How terrifying would it be to find out someone broke into your house with a gun and then is just passed out drunk on the couch? Now, because of this whole ordeal, Jane had not showed up at her job, so drunk that she ends up in the hospital, and she didn't call in, so she is fired from her job at the pizza place, so she's not even a pizza girl anymore either. She ends up getting a job at the grocery store, and one day, Jenny actually comes to the grocery store, apparently having known that Jane works there. So Jenny's like, oh, hey, pizza girl. And it basically seems like she came because she wanted to check on Jane and make sure she was okay, which, dang, drove all this way to check on the stalker pizza girl. That's kind of sweet of you. The crazy part is, at one point, Jane asks her, do you even know my name? And this is the only part of the book where we actually hear her name, and Jenny acknowledges, your name is Jane, which at first, honestly, we're like, oh shit, did she get it right? Is that correct? But it really highlights just how not close they were, and that this relationship is nothing like what Jane was hoping it would be. She's thinking they're gonna run off together, and meanwhile, you're actually not sure if she even knows your name, which is crazy. And we also find out that apparently Jenny is now pregnant. And they're making a bit of small talk, but ultimately it seems that Jenny kind of felt guilty, almost as if that maybe she did something to put Jane in that position that Jane put herself in. So I definitely don't think it was her fault. But what's also super crazy is she's saying about her baby, like, oh, well, maybe if it's a girl, I'll name her Jane. Gonna name her baby after the pizza girl who broke into her house with a gun and passed out drunk on her couch. Questionable. And then Jane follows that up with like, oh, well, maybe if mine's a girl, I'll name her Jenny. Oh, so weird. But ultimately, they just kind of make a little bit of small talk and they decide to go their separate ways. And it seems that Jane really decides after this to move on with her life. Her relationship with her baby daddy, Billy, is definitely impacted once he found out that she was drinking while pregnant. That really resulted in him deciding to take control of his life. He decided he was going to go back to college and not revolve his whole life around, his baby mama and the baby. He's still going to be there for the baby, but like, obviously their relationship is not the thing to focus on because the cracks in that were so huge. And so ultimately, because she was fired from her job at the pizza place, she's just working at the grocery store, and that's kind of what her life is. And the way the book ends, she's talking to her baby, and she says, her name was Jenny Hauser, and every week I brought her pickle pizza. So that's like what she wants her child to focus on before entering this world. This book was definitely one of the less disturbing books that I've covered on my channel. I think you should read it to immerse yourself in all the kind of weird things that the main character thinks and does. I would say she's very quirky, kind of like, how I mentioned she had a crush and decided to name every hair on the crush's head, and how she's like sucking Jenny's shirt in the dirty laundry. Like, she does a lot of stuff like that and thinks a lot of things like that were pretty fun to read. Also, fun side note, she ends up finding out that the shirt that she'd sucked on, later she sees the husband wearing it, it was the husband's shirt. So she was sucking on Jenny's husband's shirt. It was a really quick read, easy, fun. I just really loved this one. I can't tell you enough. And I loved that we had that real scare with, you know, oh my gosh, is this gonna be a whole like murder, suicide, crazy thing? But then it didn't end up being that. But the whole thing with the gun, even to begin with, like that was just an angle that I didn't see this going that way. Like when Billy had the gun, I was like, wait, what's happening? So I thought this was such a cute, fun one. This was this author's first book, and I think she did a really great job. So I definitely recommend it. I think it also makes you think about how, you know, when people get obsessed with someone like this, I really don't think it had that much to do with who Jenny was, because she was like already sold on Jenny just from their phone conversation before she even met her. And I think because she was in such a dark place in her life, she just needed anything to focus on outside of herself. And so I think that's kind of where this obsession came from. I know a lot of people these days are talking about like maladaptive daydreaming and kind of daydreaming as a way to cope. And so I think a lot of the time people who get obsessed with other people like this, I think it is, you know, a coping mechanism. And I don't know, I guess it was maybe slightly better for her than drinking. I don't know. They're both not great, but go ahead and read this book, okay? Eat pizza, not with pickles, that's stupid. Also, side note, have you ever noticed on online dating profiles how every man thinks it's really clever to want to talk about whether or not pineapple on a pizza is a thing? Like, pineapple on pizza, fight me, or like, no pineapple on pizza, fight me, like it's a hot take. That's just something I've noticed. Keep an eye out. All right, thanks so much. I will see you next time. Bye.